Hello and welcome to Indelible Gaming. I'm Tommy and today we are reviewing the Logitech G502 Proteus Spectrum gaming mouse. I do want to say before I get into things, if there's anything that I missed in this review, let me know in the comment section below so I know to add it for my next reviews. Anyways, with that said, let's dive in. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is the marketing material for this mouse. Why would you want to buy it? So it comes with 11 programmable buttons. So here it is right here. That's 1, that's 2, the middle mouse is 3, left and right is 4 and 5, and then you've got, it looks like there's 2 buttons here, but this just activates the unlimited scroll wheel, and then if you click it, makes it not. And then right here you've got the profile switcher. And then on the side here, you have another button and then a back and forward button. Pretty much you've got the DPI switches up here, and then you've got the sniper button on the side for a total of 11 buttons. There is also customizable lighting. You can add up to 5 3.6 kilogram weights for a total of 18 grams that you stuff right here in this guy, and then this just slides right back on. It's got a surface tunable gaming sensor with exclusive Delta Zero technology, and we'll get into what that Delta Zero technology and the type of mouse it is. It is an optical mouse. It also has 5 on-the-fly DPI settings, which is activated by default on these buttons right here, and then you can see the buttons go up and down. I only have 3 programmed right now, which is why you only see 3 of them. It's also got an improved dual mode scroll wheel, which means you've got the simple scroll wheel, and then you can click that button and it turns into an unlimited scroll wheel. It has 3 onboard profiles, and it has a durable braided cable. So the next subject, the packaging, is pretty good on this guy. On the side here, you've got some information. On the back, you've got some more information, and then on the side, you have more, of course. Unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of this box just because it doesn't give you all of the information that you'll need. I wish that it was just a little more, it had more technical specs, like all of the technical specs. It's got some of them, but there's other things that I would like to know, like how long is the mouse cord? How much does it weigh? What type of sensor does it have in there? You know, things like this, and it doesn't say that. Overall, it's a really simple, straightforward box. You open it up, it's got the mouse and the 5 weights in there, which looks like this little guy, and then you would just open it up. And then when you open it up, you've got the 5 3.6 gram weights in there. Packaging overall, it's relatively small, and the best part of this packaging is you know that you aren't paying extra money for that packaging, and you know that almost all of the money that you're spending for this guy is going straight into the mouse itself, which is the way that I personally prefer it. I'd rather have a not as good packaging experience and all of the money be poured into the product itself. As for aesthetics, I'm going to cut to the B-roll right here. The Logitech G502 Proteus Spectrum isn't the best looking mouse on the planet, but it's not bad. The RGB lighting on the G and the DPI lights is nice and bright and accurate, far more so than the majority of products that I see out there, but as far as I know, you cannot change the color of them separately. So for example, you can't say have a purple DPI light and a red G, or a purple G and a red DPI light. Instead, you have to choose one of the 16.8 million color choices that you have, and then the G and the DPI light will be that color. You can choose to turn on the G, RGB, LED, or the DPI separately, but that's about as far as the customization goes. However, when it comes to looks, this is a completely biased portion because this is completely due to personal taste. So do what you think. So I'm curious, what do you think about the aesthetics for this mouse? Let me know in the comment section below. Personally, I think it looks okay. I think it kind of blends in with kind of the rest of the gaming setup, and then you can really, because of all the black, you can really just focus on the RGB lighting. The next thing I want to talk about is the feel. This mouse feels excellent in the hand. I've never had a mouse feel this comfortable before. I've never had any cramping or problems with where to put any of my fingers. It glides smoothly across my mouse pad with no effort. The left and right click have a very satisfying tactile feel to them. They also seem to have a very light actuation force with short travel distances. This comes in handy when you're trying to get everything you possibly can in those first-person shooters and Twitch-based gaming. The other buttons are satisfying mechanical switches as well. People have complained about accidentally hitting the DPI up and down on the left of the left click. I personally have never had this issue. The scroll wheel feels amazing. It has enough force that you won't accidentally scroll, which makes it highly accurate. You can also press the button right below the scroll wheel to unlock it for unlimited scrolling for large documents or whatever. However, with that said, some people have complained that it's a little too stiff. And then when you have it as the unlimited scrolling, if you're shaking your mouse back and forth, it will actually start to scroll by itself, and it also makes it a lot less accurate, so that is something to keep in mind. The next thing I want to talk about is the click test, so I'm going to jump into that. Pretty much all that is does this mouse make any noise when you're shaking it back and forth? And what do all of the switches sound like, just in case you're interested? Alright, so let's talk about the specs for this guy. So it's got a 3-year limited hardware warranty. As for the tracking, the resolution is 200 to 12,000 DPI, and you can edit that in increments of 50 DPI. Its max acceleration is greater than 40G. I don't know what some of these mean, so I'm just going to throw them up to the screen and you can read them. The max speed is greater than 300 IPS. The mouse type is optical. The sensor that is in it is the PMW3366 with exclusive Logitech G502 optical sensor technology, which what Logitech says it is a technology that minimizes mouse acceleration and increases reliable targeting. These numbers that I listed above are tested on the Logitech G240 gaming mouse pad. As for the responsiveness, the USB data format is 16-bit/axis. The USB report rate is 1000 Hz or aka 1 millisecond. The microprocessor is a 32-bit ARM. The glide is a dynamic coefficient of friction I have no idea what that means, and static coefficient of friction of 0.15. And this was tested on a wood veneer desktop. The glide is super good on these. So I like with my mouse pad, which is a Rocat Tato control mouse pad, it glides across it super beautifully. I can barely feel that I'm actually moving my mouse back and forth, so it does a super good job at that. The durability, so the buttons of the left and right click are rated for 20 million clicks. It is rated at 250 kilometers for until the sensor wears out, I guess. I've never really seen that as a spec before. For the physical specifications, the height is 5.2 inches or 132 millimeters. The width is 2.95 inches or 75 millimeters. And the depth is 1.57 inches or 40 millimeters. The weight is anywhere from 121 grams to 139 grams. You get an 18-gram difference in there when using 5 of the 3.6 gram weights. So let's talk about my own personal pros and cons. Keep in mind, most of these are completely subjective based off of my own preferences, so take all of these with a little bit of a grain of salt. But the left and right click feel absolutely amazing. Seriously, it feels so good. Better than any other mouse that I've ever used, and that's including the G502 Proteus core. And I don't know if it's just because this guy's new or if it's actually because they have slightly different tactile feel switches in there. The RGB LED is good and provides a good brightness with accurate colors, which I've just noticed for other RGB things like keyboards and other mice, that sometimes the RGB light isn't super bright and isn't super accurate and looks kind of washed out. For this one, it looks really punchy. I like the scroll wheel, however in this particular model, it feels a little too loose in comparison to my Proteus core, so this is both a pro and a con. They did say on the packaging that they updated the scroll model, so I'm wondering if what they did is they actually made it slightly looser because other people were complaining, but I actually prefer it to be a little more tighter. I don't know, it could also just be a semi-bad unit that I got. I also want to mention that if you unlock the scroll wheel, that it'll actually scroll up and down on the document because it's a little too loose, and it isn't accurate for fine presses if you do have it fully unlocked, even though you shouldn't be doing the fine presses if you've got it unlocked, because that's the whole point of having a dual hinge on there. This mouse is also the most comfortable mouse I've ever used in my entire life. It feels great in the hand. I also am a palm grip user, which this is more based for, is those who do have a palm grip. It kind of does work for a claw, but maybe not as well and might not be as comfortable. Like I said before, moving across my mouse pad is super smooth and feels like butter. Seriously, it's one of the main reasons why I like this one so much more than I like the M65 Pro from Corsair. The PMW 3366 with Delta Zero is a fantastic optical sensor, and I'm ridiculously accurate with this mouse. So, when you add the optical sensor, smooth and easy movement, incredibly satisfying left and right click, and wonderful scroll wheel, you've got yourself a hell of a mouse. I also enjoy the ability that you can add and remove weights in 3.6 gram increments. I do think that the 121 grams is fine for me personally, but I can see that most people, especially those first-person shooter people, this is going to be a little too heavy of a mouse for them, but once again, that is personal preference. So some people might say this is the perfect mouse for first-person shooting, like me, and then there's going to be other people that disagree and think that you need a smaller and lighter mouse for that. But you're not going to find a better sensor in another mouse than you do in this one. I also like that you can change the DPI in increments of 50, however, you start at 200 DPI where there's other mouses that start at 100 DPI. So what about some of the negatives now that I've listed all of the positives? The mouse, like I said before, is a little too heavy for some people. There is limited software control for the RGB lighting. You can only change one or both of the LEDs to be a single color instead of changing them separately, which I don't like. The software is also a little confusing on how to change the lighting. The mouse scroll wheel is hit or miss depending on preference. As I said a little bit earlier, palm grip is what it's mostly made for. Claw grip I think would work, but isn't going to be as comfortable. It is a right-handed mouse, so if you're left-handed, you're kind of out of luck. I feel like this sniper button's just a little too far away from your thumb that it makes it hard to reach, even though that can also be considered a pro or a con depending on how you look at it, because you could also use that as, say, like a reload button, which you don't always want to press, but would be easy to reach for if you needed to. But for using it as a sniper button, which most of the time that's what it's used for, to slow down your mouse movement, I just feel like it's too far up that you're going to be more inaccurate trying to do that. Some people have complained about clicking the DPI up and down when they're going for the left click. This next one completely blows my mind, but in the software I can't figure out how to actually launch, say like this to launch Google Chrome or something. So it won't launch a program. I can't program it to launch a program, which to me absolutely blows my mind. Like, I don't know. I've never seen any other gaming mouse that you can't launch a program for other than this one. So kind of weird. You can also only have 3 profiles, which once again I think is a major letdown just because I use a Corsair K70 rapid fire keyboard, and I have a lot of different color profiles that I've set up for that, but I can only do 3 color profiles for this, so I can't switch them according to the color perfectly for that. I would have to go into the software every time and edit that way, which is just not as much fun. So, my overall impressions for this mouse, it will continue to be the mouse that I use every single day. I was previously using the Logitech G502 Proteus core, so do take that with a little bit of grain of salt, as I was heavily preferenced towards that G502 Proteus core. And then once I switched over to the Proteus Spectrum, I do like this one a little bit more than the Proteus core, and there are some minor differences that make the Spectrum better than the Proteus core, and it's not just the RGB lighting. But between the satisfying clicks of the left and right, the DPI settings, the sensor, the weight, the glidability, and the scrolling wheel, I think I've got myself a real keeper, which is why I choose to have this being my daily driver. And that PMW3366 optical sensor with Delta Zero technology is arguably the best sensor on the market at this very moment. The one negative, though, is that it does come at an $80 price tag, which is pretty expensive for a gaming mouse. However, I think it's totally worth it, and it does go on sale for $60 pretty often, so I recommend, if you are wanting this mouse, to try to get it at the $60 price tag instead of the $80 price tag. So let's talk about performance. Between the Razer Naga, the Logitech G502 Proteus core, not the Spectrum, and the Corsair M65 Pro, this one definitely tops it all for me personally. I've never been so accurate with a mouse in my entire life. I've got a compilation of clips that you can see just how accurate I am. I'm not going to add them into this video because it would make it far too long, but I will leave a link in the description where you can click that and see that video. I do, for that, recommend that you don't look at my exact skill per se, but where my mouse movements are to see how accurate I am. I feel like I can always be exactly where I want it to be, including really fine, and when I say fine, I mean pretty pixel perfect precision. So I definitely grade the performance for this mouse to be super, super good. As for the software, the Logitech software utility is very straightforward and simple to use, but with that said, it means that you can only do things that are simple. You can change the DPI settings in increments of 50 from 200 to 12,000 DPI, and there are up to 5 DPI levels that you can program into the mouse and 1 for the sniper button. You can change the G and the DPI lighting to be on or off, and what color it is to 16.8 million colors in there. However, finding that isn't the easiest. So that is all I've got for the review of the Logitech G502 Proteus Spectrum. I think that it's a very solid mouse. It's going to be the mouse that I continue to use every day for everything. This was rated actually a mouse for an all-purpose mouse, and it is an excellent all-purpose mouse, but I also use it for my competitive play. So, with all of that said, if you like this little video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a dislike. And of course, if you've been following my content for a while, please do subscribe. I also recommend, if you've made it this far, to check out some of my other videos and see if you like what you see. And I will see you and your beautiful face on the next one. See ya!